If your influencer has no humanity, then why should your audience trust them? Today, we're going to unpack and look at how AI generated creators might just be the biggest brand risk of the entire decade and honestly into the future. So let's get one thing straight here. AI isn't the problem. The problem is fake. The problem is pretending that something or someone synthetic is human. And that's where trust goes to die. Marketing is built on belief, not features, not funnels, belief. You believe that the person recommending the product is real and being honest. You believe the voice behind the content, and when the belief gets violated, then everything else will break. AI gives us scale. That's not up for debate, but it can help produce thousands of assets, adapt tone, personalized messaging. It can even save time, money, and creative fatigue. That's all real, for sure, but there's a line, and it's not about technology, it's about ethics. When brands cross that line by passing off fiction as real, by presenting AI as human without transparency, they trade short-term efficiency for long-term damage. So why is that? It's because people don't want perfect. They want real. They want context. They want to feel something human in the noise of the algorithm. And honestly, here's the real question that every brand needs to answer right now. Are we using AI to connect or to manipulate and save time or money in the short term? Because your audience can tell the difference. And once they feel manipulated, no amount of reach will bring them back. We've entered a new era where audiences are hyper aware, they're hyper cynical, and they're hyper sensitive to being lied to. And yes, there may be points that AI photos or videos may be so convincing that your audience can't tell the difference. But being hoodwinked, is that worth the integrity of your brand for maybe short-term wins or money saving? I would say no, not at all. And so AI influencers are creating a mix of confusion out there. And in marketing, the phrase often said is that if you confuse, you lose. You need more clarity in your brand and your marketing. And so the clarity comes from human and imperfect moments in your marketing, not so polished. Because the thing with AI, and actually it's a little bit scary at times, I'm sure many of you have, say, been using ChatGPT or other AI apps where you can have voice conversations with the AI voice. And one thing, at least recently, I've seen, which is pretty mind-blowing to me, is that this AI voice talking back to me in these brainstorming conversations or information share coming from the AI, this AI voice in real time, like a conversation, is putting the imperfections that us humans have in communication, meaning they're saying or their intonation or pausing is not so robotic sounding. And it's honestly crazy convincing that I may be talking to a real human, but I'm not. And it is insane. It's still blowing my mind. I don't know if I'll ever get used to it because I have to kind of pinch myself and remember that I am not talking to a real human right now. And they are sharing and being genuine, it sounds like, in the moment. And we're seeing this more as AI video and the influencer or creator economy is being impacted by fake influencers, fake creators who are posing as someone who may promote a product or service, but behind the scenes, there is no substance. It's ones and zeros, right? It's an algorithm. It's an AI. It's a bot. It's not real. And so I would say the more we get familiar with seeing AI generated content, the more our BS meter is going to be heightened. We're going to recognize what's real and what's not, but we're also going to be confused. And we're not going to be able to always tell that. I mean, how many times do we watch movies in cinema, on our phones, TV screens, and CGI, right, computer-generated images baked into, say, a seemingly non-CGI movie, and we can't tell the difference. So we may be seeing a shot that is of a forest or we see something in the background and it's a building or it's an extended set, and we don't know that that is fake, that it actually wasn't shot that way because computers generated those better, improved, typically visuals. It works great for cinema, but we're going to get even more of that with AI generated content, which is why I'm honestly a big fan of the fact that a lot of these platforms like Google or YouTube are cracking down on AI generated content, that we have to specify in uploads and in publishing that, yes, this content, this video was generated in part or fully by AI. And so we can have that as a qualifier when we go to see content. Because like the sample of talking to AI on my phone, ChatGPT, where I'm at times nearly convinced that I'm talking to a real human because they are inserting the imperfections of human speech into our conversation. We're going to see that more with the content that's put out there. So I'm a huge supporter of that. I'm not against many types of AI generated content, I would say, from photo, video, text, but I am against the confusion and manipulation it can create to say sell a product or service, break trust with a brand, company, or product. And I'm all for human driven creativity and content that can be created by real creators. So again, I say we've entered a new era where audiences are hyper aware. They are hyper cynical and they're very sensitive to being misled. They've been burned by filters, by fake followers, and now AI personalities pretending to be real people. Now that brings us to Mia Zelu. Mia wasn't a person, but she looked like one. She lived like one, at least on Instagram, the internet. There were 57 hyper-edited lifestyle posts, exotic trips, wellness hacks, cozy apartment shots. She racked up nearly 200,000 followers in months. Her engagement soared, brands lined up to work with her. Then the reveal, well, she was completely AI generated. No disclosure, no hint of fiction, just an army of designers and algorithms and bots behind the curtain. I mean, seriously though, think of like The Wizard of Oz. We've seen it recently in the movies Wicked, which I enjoy. I'm a huge musical fan, Broadway fan. And in these movies, it again re-portrays the fact that this wizard who has massive power and influence has hoodwinked and manipulated those that live in Oz and beyond, that he is truly a magician, a man with powers, yet he has none. And that is the ultimate deception. And so when the Wicked Witch, at least in the context of this story, the show, the movies Wicked, that they discover his deception and it breaks all trust. It at least starts with Elphaba and then Glenda and other characters over time as the news and message gets out. And the same thing can happen when you create a curtain of deception for your brand and how you are communicating and sharing your message with your audience. Now, not all AI campaigns are built to deceive. In fact, we've seen what can happen when transparency is ignored, sure, but what can happen when it's baked into your strategy from the start, that you communicate to your audience that this is in fact AI generated. You embrace that. Well, the audience doesn't feel misled or lied to. In fact, if it's going to communicate a certain visual or message appropriately, then sure. And your audience may know, by the way, right? They should know that it's AI generated, or they can tell without being told at times. As long as it maintains that trust and maybe grows it, more power to you. Invest in that. Maybe save a few bucks. Because it's all about how you make your audience feel at the end of the day. We are emotional beings before logical beings in our purchasing process, or whether we buy into an idea or a movement. So when it comes to the honesty you can create, people appreciate the honesty, even if it's a hard truth sometimes, and they're not necessarily preferring to see AI generated content. So transparency is important. Authenticity, use human. And the more you use humans in your content, in the right way, the majority of your content, 80%, the 80-20 rule you can even employ, the more your audience will appreciate it in the long run. Because I believe there's going to be a pendulum swing. The more saturated in noise that gets created with AI content, the more the signaling and the recognition of human-driven content is going to stand supreme. It's going to be put on a pedestal, and people are going to yearn for that. And people are going to want to be a part of a community in a sense of belonging that AI can't replicate, because it goes back to our roots of human pre-technology and pre-AI. So this is the model that we do believe in and we use. We use AI for scale, sure, but we lead with values. We lead with purpose. We let tech assist in the storytelling, but we don't let it fake it. And we always keep the audience in on the process. So let's break down exactly how brands can scale with AI without killing the trust of their audience. This is our 4-point ethical AI framework, something that every creative team should be building into their process. So step 1 is beliefs. Start with the why. If your content strategy doesn't have a belief system built in, well, AI will default do whatever is easiest, fast, flat, and fake. So remember this simple comparison. You want authenticity over pixels, meaning like the bots, right? So people want to know who or what they're engaging with. Transparency isn't a legal checkbox. It's just simply a creative strategy. Audiences connect with the flaws, not perfection. So if you polish the soul out of your content, it's going to kind of die and be soulless. The second step is process. So build in transparency. Disclosures can't be optional or buried in the fine print. You can tag your content and say it's used AI or AI assisted badges in bios, captions, and overlays. Make sure to make it pretty obvious, but human. Think about it. Created with AI support, inspired by your team. People would appreciate that honesty. In fact, parts of this brainstorming, this script, these notes of this video developed with AI assisted, but human created and human driven. Maybe you can see parts that I feel like I'm reading too much from a script, or there's times where I am rambling or going off script and sharing ideas that are human driven. Maybe you can tell, maybe you can't, but being honest with your audience on how AI is being used in your content creation, your marketing efforts, hopefully, and will build more trust and appreciation. Now, the next step is proof. You want to measure what matters. Don't just track clicks. You want to track trust. Compare what your audience is engaging with, meaning like, do they prefer AI content to have a disclosure or to not have one? And then watch repeat engagement. It tells you who's coming back and why. You also can track dwell time or watch time, shares, and the comment tone, whether people can tell and read through the BS or not. Because come on, AI content, it shouldn't be ignored. It should start conversations. The fourth step is tools. So you want to use the right tech stack. The tools that you choose should shape the tone that you're going to create. So use overlay platforms like store.ai to auto amend transparency tags, or you can pair with sentiment analytics tools to monitor how your audience feels, not just what they click on. You can also build AI prompts around brand voice guides and tone archetypes. Don't just let ChatGPT freelance for your campaign. Input the data it needs to learn from, so that way it can create in your voice. The bottom line is AI doesn't need to be invisible to be effective. It just needs to be honest. The moment that you treat transparency as a feature, not a flaw, you can unlock both trust and the scale. Now let's look at what happens when brands skip that transparency part and go full AI catfish. There's this one travel brand, and we're not going to name names, but you know who you are. They decided to launch a glamorous AI avatar as a luxury travel influencer. There was breathtaking photos, storybook itineraries, chic outfits, sunset wine shots. Everything felt aspirational, except none of it was real. There was no disclosure, no AI tags, nothing in the bio or captions, just one high-end illusion marketed as lifestyle content. And for a while, it worked. Engagement looked good. The content was shareable. The brand seemed happy. But then came the receipts, and a handful of followers started digging. They called out inconsistencies, posed questions. They cracked the cracks, widened more and more, and soon it was pretty obvious that the influencer didn't actually exist. The backlash hit really fast, and followers felt pretty duped. So PR coverage turned a little hostile. It created more controversy than it needed to, and the campaign credibility, it was just gone, right? Trust was lost. This whole narrative flipped from, wow, beautiful content to, wow, you kind of lied to us. People can forgive a cringy post, sure. They'll even forgive a bad campaign, but they won't forgive betrayal. Once trust breaks, everything else can become noise that you put out. All that budget, all that brand polish erased by one decision to hide the truth. So, are you still thinking about labeling AI content? So, do you still think that labeling AI content is just a nice to have? Well, let's hear what other industry leaders have been saying about this. So, Connor Archbold, CEO of Tracksuit, he said that AI isn't inherently bad, but brands lose instantly if they mislead customers. And he's right, of course, with this. This is what we've been talking about. The second your audience feels tricked, they start to tune out and they don't come back. Plus, Kate Rourke of Getty Images, she's the head of creative. She said that 79% of consumers now see traditional ads as more authentic than influencer content. That tells us everything. The pendulum is swinging. The old school is gaining ground again, and not because it's better, but because it's more clear. So if your influencer or your UGC creator lacks humanity, the real flaws, the real voice, your audience can maybe sense it. And transparency is no longer optional with AI. It's really the only way that AI can work with trust. You just got to remember, when you lead with honesty, trust becomes a way by which you can grow, and it's not a liability. So, did this episode hit home a little bit or make you second guess your next influencer campaign? We want to hear from you. Would you work with an AI influencer, a UGC creator, as long as you clearly labeled that it was AI generated? Drop your answers in the comments below. And if this kind of marketing breakdown makes you rethink your content strategy, well, that's good. That's the whole point. We do this every week on this channel. We talk about real insights, stories, no fluff, and creative frameworks that actually work. So if your brand is ready to scale content the right way with AI, strategy, and humans working together, then visit contentsupply.com to learn more about how we can help you and your marketing team win big with content that works. Human-driven creativity mixed in with AI. The perfect marriage of the two while helping you build your brand the right way. Thanks for watching, and tune in for more content just like this.